Player of the Week, and I had a 7-match unbeaten streak, and then Kevin Kratt's free kicks. But people wanted to talk about 7 matches unbeaten. What a great run Atlanta United's been on since that Houston match. That seems like forever ago, guys.
Yeah, my vote won. Yes. So I mean, this team's just playing the best in the league right now. It's really just that simple. It's a very complete team. It's not one-dimensional like a few of the top teams in the league at this moment. They can defend. They can win games that are 1-0. They can sit back and absorb pressure. They can also go on the front foot and attack. So right now, you're looking at the most complete team in MLS.
Yeah, and they're healthy now, too. I mean, it's remarkable. Through most of this run, they haven't had Barco. They haven't had Villalba, at least for a good bit of it. Haven't had Escobar for almost all of it. So the fact that they've done this and they've played so well, even while mostly shorthanded, it's a great sign for Atlanta United. It's scary for the rest of MLS. But it's going to get tougher because you've got a really, I think, extremely difficult stretch of 3 matches and 8 games. And then if you want to look a little bit beyond that, some really tough matches going into the month of June, kind of leading up to a road match at that odd pitch at Yankee Stadium. So it's great for Atlanta United right now. The rest of the league is catching up. Orlando City is certainly one of them. You're going to see them in a week. I know that's 3 matches from now, but it's very soon. SKC, obviously the class of the West, they're coming up a week from today. So other sides are catching up. Even Chicago. I mean, their recent form has not been bad. They got a great result Saturday in Toronto. So kind of buckle your seatbelts a little bit, guys.
First time since 2015 that Chicago had an undefeated road trip. It was a 2-game trip. It was a short one, but win and a draw, that's the first time that's happened in a long time for Chicago.
Yeah, especially against Red Bulls and Toronto that you think are playoff teams.
Yeah, so to win at Red Bull Arena and to get a point in Toronto after going down 2-0. Chicago's not going to be a pushover this weekend. And
for 7 matches unbeaten, it's just now we do have a game of hand against New York City FC, and we win, we go back up to first place. It's just being up there now as being the top dog. We kind of heard Darren Eales and Michael Parkhurst this morning on the morning show talk about being the hunted now. That Michael Parkhurst did say we're kind of the darlings of MLS now with the attendance records, and now starting off the blocks in for our franchise record fashion.
Well, you had Garth Lagerwey, the general manager for the Seattle Sounders, this week say that they're not the biggest spenders in the league anymore, and he looked at what Atlanta's doing and Toronto and other teams, and Seattle can't rest on their past. They've recognized that Atlanta's kind of passed them in a lot of different ways. It's different. You can't sneak up and surprise anybody anymore. But that's what this club was built towards. They were built towards being the best team in this hemisphere, not even just in MLS. Darren Eales has always looked bigger than that. Carlos Bocanegra had an interview with AS in Spain, and he said the same. He's like, they want to be the biggest team. They're going to go out and get the best players they can. They're going to spend money. They want to have the results and the trophies to match that.
And now let's transition to the 4-1 win, guys, against Montreal. A comeback win. We saw Montreal got the early goal and then, bunkered. They had some defensive pieces missing. So
they were bunkering to begin with.
Yeah.
They just got the early goal kind of fluky, but they were bunkering from the opening whistle.
Yeah, so try to help their cause with that 1-goal lead and bunkering. And then kind of we kept on chipping away, trying to break them down. And that's kind of, in the offseason, why you get a Darlington Nagbe, why you get a Ezequiel Barco, to break teams down that bunker like this. And it showed that, we did enough. And also, props to Tata Martino for making these substitutions that, last year, I don't think the fan base would have expected from Tata. That going and start the second half, bringing in Villalba for Lorenowitz, recognize that, hey, they're not going to be, they're bunkering, so Lorenowitz, we'll take him off, put Villalba, put another body up top to make something happen. Just really good props to Martino for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gave us a boost in the booth when we see Tito Villalba coming in at halftime. That's a bold move from Tata Martino, and one that he probably wouldn't have made last year.
Yeah, and it really hasn't just been that. I mean, I think if you look at the last couple weeks, he's found the right time to introduce Kratz. I'll even go back to L.A. I mean, everyone's buzzing about the 2 free kicks that Kratz had against Montreal, which were outstanding, but it was his ball up to Romario Williams that generated the penalty right at the end that clinched the match in L.A. He's been doing that all year, and I feel like Tata has a very good idea of how to deploy Kratz off the bench. He even got that spot start against NYC and ended up being very clutch there, too. I thought he did a really good job in that New York City match of not using his subs. I know he took a little bit of heat for that. Like, why aren't you using all 3 subs? New York City was on the ropes there at the end of that match. Yeah, you didn't need to. So I think, and I wrote this on 929thegame.com, I think we're a little bit spoiled because we have Tata right now making these kinds of decisions. And it seems like every button he's pushing right now has been the correct button. But that was a gamble to put Villalba in, take Lorenowitz out. Very, very seldom do you see Lorenowitz subbed out, especially at 45 minutes. You almost never see that. Gutsy move. Put a little more heat on Nagbe. I thought Nagbe flourished. And I know we're going to get on the whiteboard and how the formation changed a little bit, but it was a gutsy move that paid off because Villalba, I don't think they wanted him to play 45 minutes. It kind of felt like he was just hanging on at the end. He's obviously not fully match fit yet, but it was a move that paid off.
Yeah, and Jason, let's probably could transition to the whiteboard and kind of maybe tell people, like, with that second half substitution of Villalba going up top and taking Lorenowitz off, what kind of shifted for Atlanta United, maybe tactics and formation-wise?
So it changed a few different times. I'll give you the kind of base default here for Atlanta in the 3-5-2. So the base is this. Your 3 center backs, your right wing back, your left wing back, your 2 holding mids, your 10, 1 forward, slightly behind the other one. That's your base in the 3-5-2. So when you pull Lorenowitz and you go to Villalba up top, it becomes more of this. With Darlington Nagbe by himself, Miguel Almiron, Ezequiel Barco, Tito Villalba, and Joseph Martinez up top. So it goes from 2 holding to 1, and Nagbe's honestly going to have more range than Lorenowitz. Nagbe's going to be all kind of like that, covering everything. And then these 4 are just completely interchangeable up top. Very fluid with a box at the top. So what happened a few times was this actually prompted Montreal to come out of their shell a bit and try to attack. I'm a little surprised Remy Gard didn't put another attacking player in the middle here to put more pressure on Nagbe. He didn't. He decided to just try to play the counter, see if you can find another goal, but otherwise just keep the one you have. Now, the next move was interesting. So the next sub was after you got the equalizer and you're 1-1. That's when you go to Kevin Kratz. And you get back to where you were. It was Kratz coming on for, that was Garza, correct? So that changes it up even more. You go to the 4-2-3-1 at that point, which we've seen for most of last season. And this is where the versatility of a guy like Chris McCann comes into play, because he can slide from a left center back to a left back, no problem. The versatility of Julian Gressel as well. He goes to a right back role rather than a right wing back role. You get in Kratz as the 6, who's going to sit more, play the Lorenowitz role that we generally talk about. Nagbe goes back to his more familiar number 8, and then it was Almiron, Barco, Tito moving out to the right wing, and Joseph Martinez. With the exception of Kratz for Lorenowitz, I think this is a lineup you could see start Saturday in Chicago. Get these 4 together in roles that complement each other and suit their abilities. And I like McCann at left back right now as opposed to Garza, because I think McCann's is in a little bit better run of form. And it gives you the flexibility to let Julian Gressel just go. Just bomb forward as much as possible. And then these guys slide over like we've talked about before, where it becomes a de facto 3-man backline. But then they shifted again to a 3-5-2 at the end when Escobar came on. Right. The tactical flexibility of this team, I don't think there's another team in MLS who can do that.
I mean, really impressive by Tata, being so flexible, being down a goal, then getting the equalizer, then shifting the protection, because we saw it, guys. Like, when we were chasing that goal, Brad Guzan stepped up with a big save.
Yep.
You know, that really, protect. I mean, right there, 2-0 down.
But you had to open the game up at that point.
Right.
And that's where, I've seen some people say, well, it was too aggressive. It worked, first off. So it wasn't too aggressive, in my opinion. But you had to open it up and get Montreal to come out. Mm-hmm. And this is something Martino and Atlanta United have done consistently in their history. It's almost like they're throwing the lure out into the lake. They're out fishing. So you see the team when they have possession. A lot of times they will drop the ball to their back line and try to bring the opponent out to chase and then hit them behind. So this is the same thing. In a way, you're basically inviting Montreal, hey, we only have one defensive midfielder, come get us, come on, and getting them out and then attacking them on the break. That's what Tata Martino has always done in his career, and we're seeing him do it in different ways with Atlanta United now, that kind of fishing expedition.
Yeah, and now let's kind of transition to Kevin Kratz. Man, I put a thing on Twitter as like the Jedi master of free kicks here with those 2 goals. I mean, just class right there. Especially the second one is, something that you saw from like David Beckham's day. From like bending it like that, crazy. Because at first the replay, I thought it took a deflection because it was so. But then I saw there was no like change of the on the ball. But unbelievable free kicks, and we've known about this. And it's just another thing. If we're in a game that we need an equalizer, if we need that winning goal, bring it on Kevin Kratz. 75th minute or so. If we get a foul, it's free kick territory near the box. Like, he's always dangerous from those situations.
Well, with guys like Barco and Almiron and Villalba, they're going to earn a lot of free kicks. So late in the match, Kevin Kratz is a valuable weapon for this team. But he can do more than just hit free kicks. He can play that 6 role for Lorenowitz. He can play the 8 role for Nagbe. He can play the 10. He's a very versatile player that I think Martino trusts.
What must Minnesota and Philadelphia be thinking?
Yeah.
2 different clubs had a chance to get him. And look at where the Loons are right now. Look at where Philadelphia. Minnesota, they got a good win over the weekend. But, you look at what Minnesota needs right now, what Kratz could have given them. What a mistake. I think we need to clarify, by the way, because I've seen on Twitter and a couple other places, the suggestion has been made, 2 suggestions. Number one, that Kratz earned a spot in the 11 based on those 2 free kick strikes on Saturday. I think that's maybe a step too far. He could fit in the 11 and do a very capable job, no doubt about it. But I like what he gives you as a substitute, the ability to bring him on with 15 minutes left in the match and kind of not only bring fresh legs but some creativity. I think that's great. Secondly, I don't think we're going to see Kevin Kratz striking penalties anytime soon. You've got enough guys who can do that on your roster right now. Obviously, Almiron. I think all but 2 of Almiron's goals have been from the spot this year. 4 of the 6 have been from the spot. Martinez can take it from the spot. Barco at Independiente took all their PKs, right? So I don't think Tata is going to be pointing at Kevin Kratz, or anyone on the pitch is going to be pointing at Kevin Kratz. It's a different animal, isn't it? Taking a free kick from behind a wall as opposed to taking something from the penalty spot.
Yeah, it's a completely different skill set. If Kevin Kratz is on the field in a penalty shootout, would he take one of the 5? Yeah, I think he would. But you're not bringing him on to take penalties. You're bringing him on to solidify the play, solve whatever problem is there in the match, and when you get free kicks, he's going to take them.
You know what's amazing, by the way? Atlanta United's played 8 matches, and they have 7 penalty kick attempts.
Last year, it seemed
incredible.
like Atlanta United was never going to get a penalty attempt.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to your point a little bit, Jason. Like, when you have Barco and Villalba and Almiron and Martina, you're going to get fouled. You're going to get fouled a lot. But to be 5 of 7 from the penalty spot in the first 8 matches, Atlanta United, by far MLS leader in both categories, speaks to, again, they're attacking. They're putting themselves in positions where they're getting these free kicks for Kratz to convert. They're getting the penalty kicks for Almiron and Martinez to convert.
And now let's talk about Miguel Almiron. MLS Player of the Week. I know Kevin Kratz was our man of the match on 92.9's broadcast. Miggy got the
I think he had the golden spike.
Yeah, he got the golden spike and got MLS Player of the Week. But just another a great performance by him, doing everything from both levels, his defensive work to his creating and then scoring goals. And just on his second goal, when he made the ball and he turned and sprinted what a nightmare for for opposing backlines to see Miguel Almiron coming at you with the ball at full speed, and just that interchange with Josef, a little lucky there on the bounce, but finished it calmly.
Yeah.
Just a great performance from Miggy. That's he's getting all the plaudits right now.
It's just the little things. I mean, that step back to create the space and lose Samuel Piet and be able to take off. He's going to outrun anybody in this league on that type of play, and he does that move a lot. It's a very simple little thing where he just creates the space, lets the ball do the work, and then takes off like a sprinter. He has that type of speed. But you're seeing a little bit more of an attitude from Miguel Almiron this season that I like. We only really saw that a couple of times last year where you kind of saw that edge to his game, and it feels like it's there more often this year. He's playing maybe with a little more anger at times. That's a good thing.
I wonder if we're getting close. By the way, WhoScored.com had him at a 9.92 match rating.
Yeah.
9.92. If you like WhoScored.com, Jason turned me on to them.
Yeah.
I think they're great.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, great site. I wonder if we're getting close to Miggy getting a day off. And the only reason why I bring that up is he's over 700 minutes now on the year, 718 minutes. He played in the international against USA in a midweek. Atlanta United did not have a match that week, so, you're still kind of in that one match per week form. But I do wonder if you might be getting close now. You're thinking about, okay, do we maybe consider giving him a day off? Because you're going to have the 3 matches in 8 days, and then you're going to have another midweek match at the end of the month against New England. You're going to be edging up towards 1,000 minutes on the year by the time you get to Memorial Day. You do not play on Memorial Day. I don't think Paraguay is playing on Memorial Day that I just off the top of my head.
Maybe. We'll see.
But if
they will have some friendlies around that time.
Right. But I don't know if they're playing, and I don't know if he'll be selected.
Right.
I don't want to say yes. He is definitely playing for Paraguay.
Those are matches, and this is something to keep in mind. Those are matches that the club could actually say, no, we're not releasing Almiron for because they're not official friendlies. There could be some flexibility around that time.
But I do wonder, and this is something I brought up on 92.9thegame.com. Atlanta United's got a luxury right now because of all the depth, okay? How are you going to have Villalba and Gressel and Barco and Almiron and Martinez all out there at the same time, and Escobar? It's hard right now. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I think you're approaching the point now on the calendar. You're a quarter of the way through the season where, okay, Kratz, you're going to start at number 10. Barco starts at number 10, and then you kind of move things around that way. And you give Almiron a day off because I think he's earned it.
And now let's get to some questions. I got a few questions on Reddit. And everybody, send in your questions. Tweet at us with your questions. And I know Jason will be looking at his phone and maybe checking if there's any more questions.
Did you say we got a question on Reddit?
Yes.
Let me just say again, what a fantastic job the Atlanta United subreddit does to really have the pulse of the Atlanta United supporters and the fan base and the community. Outstanding job, Atlanta United.
And
subreddit.
you're doing an AMA on Thursday.
Funny you should bring that up. Yes, on the outstanding Atlanta United subreddit at 11 a.m. Jason promised he's not going to troll me, so
I don't know. I might have some fake accounts going.
I don't know. We'll see.
But thanks for these questions, Reddit.
Great questions.
I've got this person on Reddit had a list of awesome
Oh,
questions.
is this the one who has the Brittany Arnold avatar?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, what's his name? I think he's a moderator, actually.
Yeah, so this is from the best. He said, I need it after these questions. I need you to say best mod from Reddit.
Oh,
so,
yes.
well,
this is from the best mod from Reddit.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, so he says, what is Atlanta doing this season that they didn't do last season to be able to beat teams that park the bus, especially if they go up a goal?
They went out and they got Darlington Nagbe and Ezekiel Barco.
Right.
It's really that simple. You get two guys who are excellent 1v1 and excellent with the final pass, and these things happen.
We're going to have to start calling them the bunker busters, right? Doesn't the military have a bomb, a big conventional weapon called a bunker buster? I mean, Nagbe's a bunker buster, 100%. And look, it's another good sign, guys. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this on the full-time report. A couple weeks ago up in Minnesota, Atlanta United has to play down a man for 60 minutes and bunker, and they find a way to win. They've never done that before. Now Atlanta United gets bunkered against kind of the way that DC did to them last year, they find a way to bust that wall and win a match. That's a great sign.
Yep.
It's more proof that Atlanta United can win in different ways, and these are experiences that they're going to have to draw upon, especially in the postseason as we get down the road. There are going to be teams that are going to try to bunker against Atlanta United again. Now they know they can do it.
Teams last year against Atlanta kind of had to grind out points. They'd be grinding out a draw, especially in the summer last year. Now it feels like this team is finding 3 points out of those matches.
Yep.
Let's see. This question is from Lemon. Worst mod, according to Reddit.
Oh, sorry, Lemon.
In a rough game with fouls being committed by the opponent, would you expect to see Kratz subbed on more often after his 2-goal performance against Montreal?
It's definitely a possibility. When you not so much just fouls anywhere, but when you're getting Barco and Almiron running at the back line and creating those situations and earning free kicks, that's where you might see Kratz come on a little bit earlier. You have that flexibility because he can come on for Nagbe or Lorenowitz, either one, and fulfill either job. So you're very flexible with how you can use Kevin Kratz.
Let's see. This one is from I think it's Jatek Quicksilver's Reddit accounts. Let's see. With the recent performance of our backline as well as our midfield, do you see Atlanta continuing an earnest search for depth / long-term solution for our center back / central to midfield, defensive midfielder positions, or looking gap filling role?
It never ends. If they go get depth, it would absolutely be depth in those situations because let's look at the depth chart. All right, at the 6, you have Jeff Lorenowitz, who is one of the best 6s in the league. You have Kevin Kratz, who can play that role, and he's just fine doing it, and we see how Tata Martino trusts him. You're pretty good there. You also have Oliver Shannon, who is on a first-team deal, playing with the second team. He's earning consistent minutes there. Chris Goslin, I think, is probably looked at a little bit more as an 8 right now, but he's played as a 6. He's earning minutes with the second team. You've got a lot of bodies in there right now. You don't need to go get another one. Then at center back, you've got Lorenowitz who can go to the back line, even though I don't like it. I'd much rather have him as a 6. Miles Robinson has stepped up and done well. I think center back is a position, for me, I'd love to see Oliver Shannon get a run out with ATL UTD too, to see if he can play some center back. If you go find somebody, it is strictly for depth. You're not looking for another starter at either one of those spots.
Which is probably why they didn't pull the trigger on the Mbia guy that everyone met at the airport.
He's not coming here to be a backup.
No, and you don't need him to be a starter right now.
Nope.
I mean, now knock on wood that everyone stays healthy. Lorenowitz is the 6 on this team until further notice.
And Kratz is the backup.
Right.
And if Kratz has to play an extended run as the 6, I have no problem with that. I know that scares some people, but it doesn't scare me a bit. Not the way he's been playing.
Let's see.
And Chris McCann is 6'2". That's another one. I know people don't like that idea, but Chris McCann has been playing great this season. Yeah. If you have to turn to him in that role, you've got it.
And I like what you said earlier. McCann is not coming out of the 11.
You can't take him out.
You can't take him out of the 11. He's played too well. You cannot take him out of the 11 right now.
That was the other thing they were doing, and I should have done this on the Whiteboard Chronicles, but you were getting one of the center backs to step forward.
Right.
And help Nagbe when he was the 6 by himself. And a lot of times it was Chris McCann. And most of the crosses that were dangerous in this match were coming from McCann as a left center back getting forward.
McCann even had a really good goal-scoring opportunity right before halftime.
I mean, he earned the penalty.
Yeah,
trying to head that back across.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We'll do one more, and then we'll get back with the second half of the show. What would an opponent need to have to make Tata abandon the 5 mid / 3 back formation that has been so successful as of late?
3 up top that are dangerous. I think that would be one that might be a little tricky to play 3 center backs because it's easy to get stretched that way. LAFC kind of gives you that look, so I wondered if that would be a game where you might have seen a switch, but it didn't happen. So other than that, I don't know.
I kind of get the impression listening to Carlos. I think we may have Carlos on Facebook Live with us before the match on Saturday. The AT&T countdown to kickoff, 7:30 Atlanta time on Atlanta United social channels on Saturday. I know we're working on that. I don't want to promise that, but there is a chance.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. The one thing that I get from Carlos over and over, Carlos Bocanegra, the technical director for Atlanta United, is that they're going to go out and do their thing, and whatever their opponent wants to do, okay, they're going to have to adjust to Atlanta United. So, I get the basis for the question. I think it's a great question. But I get the impression, Jason, you tell me if I'm wrong, they're going to go out and they're going to stick with the 3-5-2. Opponent be, can I say the D word on a podcast? Opponent be darned.
There you go.
I get that impression, don't you? Like, okay, this is us, this is what we're doing. Adjust to us.
I think they can. I think the 4-2-3-1 can also make opponents adjust.
That too,
It
absolutely.
really depends on form. It depends on just what the match might give you. I think the 4-2-3-1 is easier to put pressure on the opponent.
Right.
I think the 3-5-2 is easier to soak up pressure and hit on the counter.
Yeah. And now let's. I'm gonna do a couple of quick announcements for us. The 92 on the game scarves are available online, guys.
They're going fast, aren't they?
They're going pretty fast, and just want to let you know we have a limited supply, so make sure you get those. They're coming in one of these nice bags.
They're hand-packed by Jimmy, by the way.
I know, and sent. So.
Are you like signing autographs too?
No.
You should.
You should, or put like a little love note in there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Draw some
Jay,
pictures.
They're right there.
Jay Riddle, you're my BFF. Love Jason.
Jay's watching too. I saw it on Twitter.
I'm sure he is. He always
There you
is.
go, and just it's $25 for the scarf and $5 plus $5 shipping. 1 day shipping for Atlanta area. I'll send it out very quick. So just go to our website, or and you do a search on scarf, or just look at my Twitter account. It's pinned on there as well.
I don't want to interrupt your announcements, but I do have to ask: who was the supporters group that had the "This is the scarf"
I saw
scarves?
that.
I don't
or-
think it's a supporters
It was
group. I
just
think
guys
it's
who
an,
had
it's
it?
an underground scarf network, I believe. Yeah, this is a scarf was amazing.
If you don't know what we're talking about, and I don't know how many of them there were on Saturday, but I guess there were, but we noticed on the Halo board when they were singing the anthem, a lot of people behind the anthem singer were holding up a scarf that said, "This is a scarf," on the scarf. I thought that was hilarious. The very esoteric.
I think that's an
very
underground
good.
scarf network.
And see.
But if you want to send one to us, I will rep that. I love that. I will rock that all day.
Yes.
That was great.
And a watch party that's coming up on Saturday for the game. We're going to be at Big Tex in Decatur, so downtown Decatur.
Oh, nice spot.
We're doing
Great spot.
92 on the game's going to be with Atlanta United. We're going to have a cool watch party
Awesome.
for that game. So, and then also the Atlanta United Chicago Fire. Our Five Stripes countdown starts at 8 o'clock on 92 on the game.
Yeah, that's a time change, by the way. So if you got your original schedule back in February and you haven't updated it yet, Chicago moved the start time later, I think by like 90 minutes. I think it was going to be 6 o'clock Central Time. Now it's 7:30. I hope they get a good crowd. It helps us with our energy when there's a good crowd in the building.
Hopefully no cameramen are booing in my ear this time.
Yeah. That was L.A. That was a grizzled veteran camera operator. But it's my understanding there are going to be some Atlanta United supporters there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many. I know that they were trying to work out something with a pub in Chicago to maybe do like a shuttle up to the match. Chicago's had attendance problems. They haven't played very compelling soccer, and that's a big reason why. They did get 20,000 for Zlatan.
Yeah.
So, boy, I mean, if they could draw anything close to that for Atlanta United, this is not a fun place to go play. Parker's talked about it today. Pitch is not the best of all the grounds in MLS. They've had some attendance problems. It's going to be cold, like kind of in the 50s and windy. Not as cold as Minneapolis, thank God.
Yeah,
for
nothing's
that,
cold after that one. 50s sounds great.
Yeah. But that's awesome. If you're coming out to the match on Saturday, tweet at us. Tweet at Jason and I.
Yeah.
And, we'll look for you and shout you out because the supporters that traveled to L.A. filled the silence very nicely around the 80th minute when everyone was kind of looking at Zlatan like, what the heck's going on around here? The only thing you could hear was the Viking clap, so it was great.
We had a great point on Twitter from Adam, Five Stripe Stunner, said it was McCann with 2 back-to-back threading passes around the 20-minute mark, slipping Miguel, then Barco, balls behind the line of chances. McCann's passing has been a little underrated.
McCann has been a little underrated in general all year. And that goes back to the Houston match when he was getting blamed for stuff that was not his fault. You cannot remove him from the 11 right now. That's, in my opinion, that's non-negotiable.
It's not a knock on Garza. If
No.
Garza has to sit for a little bit. McCann has been playing that well.
And you want to find a way to get Escobar out there. I get that. And there will be opportunities and ways to do that. But I think at this point right now, this is McCann's job until he tells you otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, you have midweek games, you have Open Cup coming up. Those are going to be opportunities for players to fight their way back into the lineup and earn time. But, Remy Gard talked about it in Montreal, that you have to have players earn it on the training ground and then in matches. Chris McCann has absolutely earned it. How are you going to put him on the bench right now?
Right.
Yep. And now let's get to the second half part of our show. If you're just joining us, this is Stoppage Time. I'm Jimmy Vance with Jason Longshore and Mike Conti of the Atlanta United radio broadcast team on 99 The Game. And let's talk a little bit of ATL UTD too, Jason. Back-to-back results, not what we wanted, but the young team is getting valuable experience against really the top USL sides in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's big minutes. I mean, Andrew Carlton's playing a lot of minutes right now. That's what he needs because we know how good he is, but he's got to be able to show it over a full 90. And he's got to be able to show the whole package as well, defensively and the attack, not giving the ball away cheaply. All these little things that you learn from just playing. Mm-hmm. That's what Carlton's getting right now. So, the results aren't there, but this is not a team that's going to be judged on results.
Right.
The front office isn't judging it by results. It's judging it from what individual players do match to match to match. And these minutes are so valuable for Carlton. You can't really put a price on it.
Yeah, Carlton and Miles Robinson as
Yes.
well. Conti, that he got a run out versus LAFC, proved that he could step in that position in an emergency scenario. But he's also getting the minutes, with USL.
Picking up yellow cards too. He's going to be suspended from the next one.
Yeah, but it's a great point because it makes it a lot easier, not only for them to build the confidence, where if they're pressed into action in MLS, they feel good about themselves. But I also think, for Tata, who goes to as many 2 matches as he can, and is very inconspicuous. I guess he hangs out by the hot dog stand or something like that, just kind of watches. But it makes it easy for Tata to get a really good eye on what he may or may not have. I'm sure that's the same for Carlos and
Right.
Darren, Paul, all the technical staff.
They're all there.
They're all there, and that's good. They all get a look at this. It is going to be a little bit tricky now because you have road matches. Okay, so you don't necessarily have the luxury of, okay, the 2s are at home, the first team's at home, so we can make a decision on the fly about what we do with Carlton and some of those other guys. That does make it a little more challenging. But I like the fact that, like right now, for example, so Escobar is back. You've got a lot of able bodies on your back line. That's going to make it hard for Wheeler Aminu to get in the 18. Mm-hmm. Okay, no problem. Playing with the 2s for a couple weeks. That's great. And then, as Jason said, when you get into the midweek matches where you might need to lean on a Wheeler Aminu, great. Okay, now you're good to go. It's so exciting to me. You look at, and John talked about this last week when you were out, Jason. It's not that they're young. It's that their young players are so talented. Like, we've seen great flashes from Kunga. George Bello is extremely exciting right now, the way that he's played. Goslin, I mean, this is critical for him to get match minutes right now, and he has flourished. And you mentioned Carlton with the flashes. I think we're going to have an MLS match where Andrew Carlton's going to start at the 10 this year. I think that is going to occur this year. I don't know when. Right. I don't know what the situation will be. Looking down the road, as the European summer transfer window comes up, I'll just leave it at that. I think there is an opportunity for Andrew Carlton to start in an MLS match this year. So what he can do with the 2s right now is extremely vital.
I think that's a big one. I think John Gallagher is showing that he can step up if needed. I think the more that George Bello plays and just shines with the second team, the harder it's going to be to keep him out of the mix. He's 16. He doesn't play like he's 16. You look at Alphonso Davies in Vancouver, it's kind of similar between the two of them.
And we talked about this in L.A. off the air. Great drafting to get Gallagher where they got him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a role player.
And then even beyond that, to get Oliver Shannon in the second round. Yeah. And to get Gordon Wild, who had a big day against the 2s for Charleston.
Yeah, so. That's a good thing. You don't mind losing to Charleston when Gordon Wild is scoring the goals.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so crazy about this club right now. You have so much talent that you have a second team stocked full of talent, and then you have some guys who still don't have a place to play, so you can loan them to another second division team.
Yeah.
And Patrick Okonkwo and Gordon Wild are playing a lot for the Charleston Battery.
And let's see. Let's transfer, just do a little bit of news on the MLS transfer window that closed.
And the big one last night.
Yeah, and had a big deal between LAFC and New England. Jason, why don't you tell people about it?
New England finally trades Lee Wynn after he holds out. Well, after reportedly he wanted to be traded before the 2017 season. They didn't make the deal. Then at the end of the season, he said, hey, I want to be traded. Remember, I put in that request. Still doesn't happen. They changed managers. He holds out. He comes back into training. Brad Friedel's already moved on. He says Diego Fagundes is the 10. Still don't make a deal. You get to the very end of the window. I think it was announced at 2 after midnight last night that LAFC had given up $700,000 in allocation money guaranteed, possibly another $250,000, possibly a draft pick to get Lee Nguyen. And for LAFC, I think it was a domino effect for them. Marco Arena has an injury to his face. He has to have surgery. He's going to be out for a while. They don't know the timeline. All right, so then they go back to Andre Horta, the player they're bringing in. They've already got the deal done from Benfica. He's on loan to Braga. So they go and try to get that loan canceled with Braga to get him early. Braga says, we're not doing it. That was middle of the day yesterday. So then they're like, all right, we've got some allocation money to burn. Hey, let's go talk to New England. And they go and get it done. So now you're in a situation where for LAFC, they can move Carlos Vela up top, play Lee Nguyen as a 10, and you're good. Vela's going to be away with Mexico here pretty soon when he goes to join for the get ready for the World Cup. Arena hopefully will be back then. Arena goes back up top. Lee Nguyen's still your 10. Later in the season, there's some questions when Horta gets there and how you manage minutes for everybody. But big move for LAFC, and I think it makes them not quite the favorite in the West. I think Kansas City's just a little bit ahead of them, but right there.
Haven't lost since they lost 5-0 here in Atlanta. So,
Yep.
I mean, their recent form has been really good. Sam Nicholson, I think, got traded.
He did.
I mean, I
It was
don't know.
announced today.
Yeah, that was weird. Like, the transfer window closed. There were reports that Nicholson was going to be traded to Colorado. And then everyone kind of went radio silent. But I think now that deal has been consummated, Sam Nicholson going to Colorado.
Yeah, and Minnesota had added Alexi Gomez, another left winger, because they only had about 12 of them already. So Nicholson is the odd man out. He goes to Colorado for Eric Miller, who can play anywhere on the back
Don't
line.
disrespect the Loons like that.
I'm disrespecting the Loons. They passed on Kevin Kratz. I'm disrespecting.
Respect Calvo. Come on, people.
I'm disrespecting. Calvo's got to stop scoring own goals. Then we'll talk.
Oh, jeez. You know what? Real quick, though, and it's not transfer window related. I do want to give the Loons a little respect. I'm serious.
Okay.
No, I'm not being sarcastic.
This is legit respect.
No, this is legit respect. I think this is a great sign. Half the league was over 20,000 average attendance for the first 2 months of the season, and Minnesota was one of them. And they have had incredibly awful weather. We saw it firsthand. Incredibly awful weather. That is an awesome sign. I mean, if you look at the market, I mean, obviously Atlanta, 50,000, that's way out in front of everyone. Seattle's around 40,000. But when you see the Canadian market strong as well as they are, especially Toronto, that really did not care up until now. They were playing for Champions League, but still well over 20,000 for their MLS matches. That's great. The West Coast teams are doing great. That is a really, really cool thing to see. And we all want to focus on how well we're doing in Atlanta with attendance as well. We should, averaging over 50,000. But I got to give a thumbs up to the Loons, because for their supporters to average over 20,000 in just awful, hideous weather the first 2 months of the season, look, once the product on the pitch matches their level of fan support, they're going to be a great franchise in MLS.
Their fans deserve better quality on the field. Absolutely.
Now let's go talk about guys. 3 matches in 8 days. This is a massive test. Like I know, like how we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the LAFC, the Galaxy, and that whole run of 3 matches. That was a massive test, and we came out, 7 out of 9 points.
Yeah,
this is harder, I think.
So this is to me a lot harder, because you've got 2 on the road, 1 at home. You got Chicago this weekend, and then you got a midweek against the number 1 team in the West, Sporting Kansas City, and then you travel on the Sunday the next week on Sunday to go against our arch rivals Orlando,
who doesn't play a midweek match.
Play a midweek match, and you know how much they're going to be geared up for this.
Oh, they could be on a 6-match win streak by then.
So this is a massive test for, we'll get into the squad rotation and all that stuff, but guys, what a big test. And I kind of want to get y'all's feel of how many, like kind of what we did prior. How many points out of the 9 points for the 3 matches and 8? How many points at minimum would be like a success for you if we got out, had this many points? Is it 5? If we got
success for me is 2 wins out of the 3. Like if you hit 2 out of the 3, that's successful for me. I mean, I'm okay if it's a win and a draw and a loss. I'm okay if that's the case, but you get 2 wins, you're looking at this as a success. You win one of the games on the road and win your home match.
Okay.
6.
6.
Yeah, because I think you're better than Chicago.
Yeah.
If you take them seriously, and I think they got their wake-up call in the 13th minute against Montreal. If you take that match seriously, you should be able to beat them. I think it will be tighter than some expect. This is not going to be 5-1. I mean,
I agree.
This could absolutely be a 2-1, but they are capable of winning. I think they can beat Kansas City. I really do. SKC's kind of feast or famine right now. Mm-hmm. They're defending a lot better, but one match they score 6 goals, the next they get shut out. Orlando is the one that I think is going to be incredibly difficult because the Lions are playing so well right now. They're healthy. They're pushing the right buttons now managerially after everyone had wanted to fire him, and now suddenly, he can do no wrong. Jason's 100% right. There's going to be a lot of emotion intertwined with that match. It's going to be a sold-out crowd. They're going into a snake pit in Orlando. And I don't like the fact you got to play Orlando and then turn around and play Red Bulls here at home. I mean, that's not easy. And then you get a little break, but then you play New England.
Midweek.
They're kind of looking good right now. Mm-hmm. You play Philly, all right, and then you play New York City. Like this run here, the next month, basically, you've got some really, really tough matches. Columbus is in there, too, right after New York.
Before the World Cup.
Right. And then you come back, play Portland, which, I mean, who knows about them right now? Anyhow. Yep. I think 6. I think you should be able to get 2 wins out of the 3. I think it's going to be very difficult. I know a lot of you watching will not like hearing me say this. I think it's going to be very difficult to get a result in Orlando. I really do.
Any result in Orlando is a bonus.
Yeah.
The way they're playing right now and just the emotion that's going to come into that match. And Atlanta coming in with a midweek game when Orlando doesn't play midweek. That's really difficult.
I would be curious if and this would be hard because Kansas City is playing so well and they're number 1 in the West. There's going to be a lot of attention on that match. Is it going to be a fully first-choice lineup against SKC?
It would be for me.
It would be, okay, home, for you, yes.
You take your home matches.
Capitalize at home.
You take your home matches and you take your 3 points at home.
If that's the case, then is it fully a first-choice lineup in Orlando?
Probably not.
And I think that's what we need to consider about all of it. I don't think you're playing first-choice lineups 3 weeks or 3 matches in a row in 8 games.
Here's the one thing I would say is I think first choice is not just 11 players anymore.
True.
I think first choice out of the lineup that we've talked about, if McCann plays left back in a 4-2-3-1, first choice would also include Franco Escobar. It would also include Greg Garza. It would also include Julian Gressels. You're probably going 14, 15 deep.
Yes.
So there could be some rotation, but still be essentially first choice in Orlando. Kevin Kratz might start that match. That might be a good spot for him to start on the road with his veteran presence to kind of calm the game down at times.
I think the perception would be, though, like, I'm totally with you, but like if they start Kratz over Almiron, people are saying, well, that's not a first choice.
Right.
And that's, I think, more what I mean. Like, you might have, I still think, like I said earlier, the day is coming where Almiron's going to get a day off pretty soon. I hate to bring this up. Maybe they look at Barco like, okay, we're still trying to ease you into this a little bit. Maybe we only play you 45 and you're out, or 60 and you're out, or something like that.
Or you're going to come off the bench would be something more likely.
Yeah.
Now, kind of get into maybe squad rotation and formation changes coming up for these 3 matches, and maybe we can transition this into the Chicago what we're talking about. Do you see us doing the 3-5-2 this weekend?
We could. I mean, the reason is Chicago has been playing a 5-3-2 lately, but it's different. It's different than the way Atlanta plays the 3-5-2/5-3-2. It's much more of like 5, kind of like that, deeper, as opposed to the wingbacks pressing up higher. And they generally do this deal. But the key guy here for them is Bastian Schweinsteiger because he's been playing as a, I don't even know what you call it, to be honest. Some people have called it a sweeper. Some people have called it center back. Some people have called it a libero. I think basically he's playing this whole spot in the middle of the field. That's all Bastian Schweinsteiger. So when they need another central midfielder, he jumps up here and he plays in the midfield. When they need to go chase the game and he goes up higher into the formation as an extra 10, he does that too. You look at his heat map right now and where he's getting his touches, it's pretty much everywhere on the field. He's all over the place because he is their best player.
Don't erase that.
Don't erase it.
You could put that in the High Museum of Art.
There you go.
I mean, that's modern art as far as I'm concerned.
That's Bastian Schweinsteiger and the Chicago Fire because he has to do everything for this team. And he's still capable of doing it at a high level. But if he's playing in the back, if I'm Atlanta United, my eyes light up. If I'm Darlington Nagbe and I'm Ezequiel Barco, my eyes light up because I'm looking for that chip over the back line for Almiron, for Villalba, for Martinez to run onto and just exploit their lack of speed in the back. And they play kind of a high line too. Mm-hmm. So go back and look at what Columbus did to them and watch Gyasi Zardes running behind Bastian Schweinsteiger all day long. That's what Atlanta United can do to them this weekend.
They do draw a lot of fouls. In fact, they lead the league in drawing fouls. So, I mean, that's one thing they do well. It's like we talked about.
They got a great forward. Nemanja Nikolic is Golden Boot winner last year. Great forward. I think he has 5 goals on the season. Alexander Katai is kind of finding some spaces here.
He had the beautiful goal a couple weeks ago.
Great goal at Red Bull Arena. Right. Earned the penalty that ended up being the winner in that one.
Right.
He's a dangerous player, but he's still kind of fitting in. And they've had some injuries, too. I mean, they don't have as much depth at outside back right now as they would like. Kevin Ellis is playing on the right side. He doesn't get forward a ton. Watch out for Brandon Vincent on the left side, though. Very dangerous when he can get forward and provide service.
It's like we talked about prior to the, I can't remember if it was Galaxy or the match we most recently had. I look at where sides rank in MLS, and if someone's top 3 in something, they're probably doing something really well. Mm-hmm. If they're bottom 3 in something, they're probably doing something really poorly. Like Montreal was bottom 3 in a lot of important metrics. Chicago, 12th in goals, 14th in assists, 12th in goal difference, 12th in goals allowed. That's middle of the road, basically, among 23 teams. So they don't really do anything particularly well or particularly poorly, but the one thing that stands out to me about the Fire, they're probably playing with a lot of confidence right now. To go down 2-0 in Toronto and get a result out of that with Schweinsteiger scoring late, that is a really, really big confidence-building result for them. Mm-hmm. So they're probably coming into this on their home pitch Saturday thinking, you know what, we can get a result against Atlanta United. We've played pretty well the last couple of weeks, and that's true. The only aberration in there was the 1-0 loss to Galaxy. Right. And that's kind of interesting because Zlatan had the goal, I think, right before halftime. Yeah. And otherwise, it was kind of a nondescript match for Chicago in front of a good crowd.
Weather was poor, too.
Conditions were a factor, no doubt about that.
They struggle to generate attacks. That's where Chicago struggles. They're 20th in shots per match, 10 shots per match. They don't take shots from outside. Nikolic is a guy who's kind of a poacher in the box. They're 22nd in the league in shots from outside the 18 per match. Possession, 48.5%. That's 15th. A poor passing team, too. Mm-hmm. They're 19th in the league passing percentage, 76.1%. They don't really hit a lot of long balls, and when they do, they're pretty inaccurate. They are active defensively. They lead the league in interceptions per match. So they do jump those passing lanes, and Dax McCarty is a big reason for that.
And, Atlanta United is going to a park where they really did not play very well at all last June the 10th of last year when they lost 2-0. They gave up a penalty. Nikolic converted that, but they were kind of dominated in that match. Much better Atlanta United side this year, no doubt about it. Remember the match that Atlanta United won at Bobby Dodd against them, they had a red card.
Early red card.
Very early, I think in the 11th minute or something like that. So kind of like the Vancouver match this year. I mean, it's a great luxury when you're up a man for 79 minutes. So but like I said, this feels like an interesting match to me, one that Atlanta United must take seriously, much like the Montreal match. They're obviously better than Montreal, but Atlanta United has played and beaten much better teams than Chicago Fire this year.
The other thing about Chicago, they've scored at home in 35 of their last 36 matches at Toyota Park. The only one they didn't
LA.
was that LA match.
Yeah, which is fairly recent.
Yeah.
So that's a good stat, though. That's interesting.
Now, I think I'm going to just finish off with a couple more questions for us.
I'll see if we've had any recent ones come in as well.
All right, so here's an interesting question.
Yeah, we'll tell you, by the way, that we're working on the chat function on watch929thegame.com. It's not quite there yet, so bear with us. Maybe next week, maybe a little down the road. But in the meantime, if you follow us all on Twitter, at Longshoe, at ATL Soccer 929, at Mike Conti 929, just tweet us your questions maybe the day of stoppage time like Jimmy has done here. We'll write them down. We'll get to them that way. And this is going to go up on Facebook later today if you're watching us live. So if you want to type in a question on Facebook once it goes up, I'm sure all three of us will lurk on there. We'll try to answer your questions.
Definitely.
Let's see. Here's an interesting question. What do you consider to be the 3 hardest games left in the schedule?
I think at Orlando is one of them, and we go down there twice. So those are going to be tough.
At New York City.
At New York City, just because that place is so difficult to play.
At Toronto?
At Toronto, probably.
The thing about at Toronto, it's decision day.
It might not matter. It might matter. We don't know.
I have a feeling they'll be playing for something, and Atlanta United might not.
Could be.
That's kind of a confident statement. I have a feeling Atlanta United might. Well, this would be nice. Have supporter shield wrapped up where you might be able to put a second choice lineup out there, and Toronto might be playing to get either a home game in the knockout round or maybe get into top 2. I just get that feeling. Totally agree on Orlando at New York City. I got a feeling about that at Red Bulls in late September because nothing will be locked up by September 30th.
They'll have a lot to play for.
And it's another one of those dreaded early afternoon kicks on the road. In fact, both times you go up to New York this year against New York City and Red Bulls, you have to play early on a weekend on the road. Hopefully by that point of the season, it won't mean quite as much to Atlanta United, but I would throw that one out there as well. And at Dallas even.
Could be.
I mean,
they
at
can
Dallas,
figure out who they are,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they played that badly Sunday night in their 3-1 loss to New York City. I mean, that they doubled their goals allowed for the season in one match, but you're playing against New York City. They're obviously defending pretty well.
Yeah.
So that could be one, too. And that'll be 4th of July in Frisco, Texas at night.
Let's see. Here's an interesting one. Who leaves Atlanta United last between Yosef, Tata, and Miggy?
Martinez.
Oh, jinx.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think so.
I was going to say Tata. I think he's happy here. I don't know what his aspirations are going forward. I get the sense that he could kind of ride off into the sunset here.
I could see that, but I could also see somebody coming at him with a pretty big deal after the World Cup.
Yeah.
And there's already chatter about Paraguay wanting to come back to him. Chile has talked about Tata for a long time. You never know what's going to happen with Argentina. Anything can happen there. So
I don't know if he'd want to go back.
I don't know if he would, but you never know if that offer comes that you can't turn down, and it would probably be the last big offer of his career outside of anything he'd get here. I think he's very happy here. I don't think he's looking, but sometimes people come to you with an offer that's really hard to turn down. I think Almiron's going to go. I think he'll be the first one to go.
Yeah.
I think he will go when the deal is right, when the time is right, as Darren said with Dukes and Bell yesterday here on the station. Martinez is a little bit trickier one. I think offers will come. I think he's probably a little more reluctant to go. I think he's happy, and I think he's done the European thing. It didn't work out well for him in Italy. It did in Switzerland. He doesn't need that to feel complete in his career. I think he's good. I don't think he's chasing it as much as Miguel is, and Tata, I think, he could be in such demand that a special offer might come through.
Still only 24 years old is Joseph. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be the one caveat to all that. Is he's
yeah.
still young enough.
If the right deal comes, I think he'd go. But I think he would be far more discerning in where he goes than Miguel might be, who really wants to go.
He's had a taste of playing in Italy and knowing it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
I don't think he would go to Italy, but I think Miguel should go to Italy. I think Miguel would be best served playing in Serie A. If Inter Milan comes through with an offer and they've been one of the clubs linked, that would be a really good fit. I think his game fits that league very well.
Yeah. Well, 300 million lira.
All the lira, please.
Yeah. And we'll have one, last question from the best mod from Reddit.
Yes, of course.
And we'll close out with this. Who are the long-term youth projects with Atlanta United that you are the most excited about?
George Bello. That kid is ridiculous. It's going to be hard to keep him out of the lineup soon, let alone, I don't care that he's 16. Look at what Alphonso Davies does for Vancouver. Bello reminds me of him in a lot of ways, except he's more of a true defender.
Is Davies 17?
Davies is 17 now, but he played a good bit last year.
Yeah.
Bello could slot into this team right now, and he would not look like a 16-year-old. Longer term, you look at some of the U17s that I had a chance to see with Generation Adidas Cup. Kendall Edwards, who's played a couple matches with the twos, doesn't look like a typical 17-year-old, both in size, strength, and the way he plays. George Campbell was a center back partner with the 17s. Kind of reminds me of a young left-footed Eddie Pope. Just a great athlete who's kind of learning how to be a center back. I really like the 6 in that U17 team too as well. Takuma Suzuki, who won a state championship in high school last year with Macintosh, and his family had moved here from Japan. He was playing in a pretty big academy in Japan, and when he got here, he didn't have any connections to go anywhere, and he was in Peachtree City. And Tony Annan tracked him down, found him, brings him into the academy, and he was a key part of that U17 team. Just another, confident in possession, can defend, he can drop into the back line as Lorenowitz does. He really fits the Atlanta United style well. That's just a handful of the guys.
Who's the kid who hit the bike in the U13 game the other day? It was on Sports Center.
That one. Yeah.
Man, some of those golazos from the U13s right now are awesome.
Yeah.
So
Jackson Conway is another one with the 17s, though.
Yeah.
He played with the Atlanta United too here recently and looked really confident as a 16-year-old starting against the Charleston Battery. Had a great turn and run, kind of like Almiron, where he takes that little step back, lets the ball run, beat Taylor Mueller, who's one of the best center backs in USL. That's just some of the young talent coming through. And you're going to see a lot of it with ATL UTD2 this year. You're going to see a lot of academy guys get minutes.
Yeah.
So check those games out. If you want to see the next generation, that's where you can go see it.
Well, thanks for the questions from Reddit, guys. We really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in for Stoppage Time. I'm Jimmy Vance with Jason Longshore and Mike Conti. And again, the scarves are on sale on 92onthegame.com. And the guys will have Five Stripes countdown at 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
8 o'clock Eastern Time and 7:30 on Facebook Live on Atlanta United's social channels. We'll have the exclusive reveal of the starting 11. We'll see if there's any changes. They've played the same lineup a couple weeks in a row now. We might have a guest, as we hinted earlier. And then, 8:30 Atlanta time will be the kickoff. So it won't be Five Stripes Midnight Express, but it will be Five Stripes after dark.
And make sure you guys are tweeting at us. I'll send out a tweet, tag all the guys. Make sure you tweet at us throughout the match, and also for the full-time report, because they have a great segment that takes the Twitter questions. And
it might have to be 2 segments coming up soon. There's been so many comments and questions. It's been great.
We really appreciate it. Thanks to Mena and back for making us all look good here and getting this on Watch 92 on the Game set up right and properly. And next week's show is going to be a big one because we've got a sponsor, and it's going to be exciting times for
we're sponsored.
What?
Yep.
What?
We are sponsored. So tune in next week for that reveal.
Get
It's
money.
exciting times for Stoppage Time and 92 on the Game. Thanks again for stopping by for Stoppage Time.